presidential candidate for Ecuador's Union for Hope coalition, Andrés Arauz, to guarantee the supply of vaccines against COVID-19 and overcome the current health crisis in Ecuador. The Argentine government is advancing in its negotiation with Russia to produce the Sputnik V vaccine in Argentina. Russia's Sputnik V vaccine reported 91.5% efficacy during the third phase of clinical trials and 100% efficacy in several cases. Ecuador's presidential candidate for the Union for Hope coalition, Andrés Arauz, has asked Argentine President Alberto Fernández for his cooperation in acquiring a COVID-19 vaccine. In a letter sent to the Argentine head of state, Andrés Arauz expressed that the two leaders are united by the deep love for the great homeland and commitment with the Latin American integration. He stressed that the COVID-19 pandemic reminds us once again of the importance of acting together and coordinating efforts for the well-being of our people. After his visit made in December 2020, Arauz pointed out that it was gratifying to be able to discuss the provisions of 4 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine for the Ecuadorian people. He also expressed his desire to continue with the negotiations to guarantee vaccines for the entire Ecuadorian population. In response to Andrés Arauz's letter, the president of Argentina, Alberto Fernández, reiterated his commitment to cooperating with Ecuador. The Argentine head of state referred to the fact that the world is experiencing a very complex situation as regards vaccines production and access. He noted that, as discussed, AstraZeneca's vaccine is being produced in Argentina and packaged in Mexico for its subsequent distribution across the region. The Argentine president renewed his commitment to work with the authorities of the laboratory to ensure the needs of the Ecuadorian people are taken into account and add that his government will make every effort to help Ecuador in its negotiation with other vaccine suppliers. Also in Ecuador, the vice presidential candidate of the Union for Hope coalition, Carlos Rabascal, held a walk for hope in the coastal city of Guayaquil as part of his final campaign activities. During the event, the candidate reiterated the possibility of winning in the first round on Sunday. Likewise, he assured that if he wins, he will promote Latin American integration to face the crisis sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic. At the same time, the presidential candidate Andrés Arauz held an event in the city of Riobamba. Arauz promised to govern with and for the people, prioritizing the sectors most affected by the current crisis. This Tuesday, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro announced that his government will continue sending trucks loaded with oxygen tanks to Brazil in an act of solidarity, given the health crisis in the country that is experienced.
Brazil, our sister nation of Brazil. We are already guaranteeing to the state of Amazonas and Roraima state. I want to inform that we are guaranteeing the Brazilian state of Amazonas and the state of Roraima. We are guaranteeing their needs in terms of oxygen through the Steel Corporation, SIDOR, and the working class. Thanks to the workers, thanks to the governor, Justo Nogueras. Today, 3 trucks arrived. 1 for Roraima, 2 for Amazonas.
The Venezuelan president also invites citizens to celebrate the Bicentenary Congress of the Peoples of Venezuela, which will see the participation of many progressive movements in Latin America.
I am convening, as was decided by the national leadership on Monday, I am convening a broad, diverse and dynamic popular Congress that manages to group and unite all the popular tendencies, all the popular forces that the revolution has raised and built in the last 10 years. I am convening from February the 4th to February 27th the activation of the Bicentennial Congress of the Peoples of Venezuela. All the social movements, the different columns, popular movements, the quality of the Bolivarian social leadership is impressive.
In Colombia, 2 new massacres took place in the department of Nariño, leaving at least 9 people dead. The authorities of Nariño confirmed that in the municipality of Policarpa, the bodies of 4 young people who had been missing since January 29 were located. In relation to this case, the police say that they are awaiting the technical inspection. In another similar incident in the municipality of Roberto Payán, the bodies of 5 murdered citizens were found. This act of violence was denounced by the Congressman Roy Barreras. And the Federal Police of Brazil have announced the launch of an investigation into suspected use of Brazilian Air Force aircraft to transport drugs to Spain. According to local media, police have carried out raids and seized several kilos of drugs, as well as confiscating properties and vehicles suspected by have been used as men as transporters. The federal police indicate that several officials have already been singled out and forbidden from leaving the country while the investigations continue. Meanwhile, through a statement, the Air Force reiterated that it rejects any conduct that does not represent its values or fulfill its institutional mission. We will go now to a short break. Follow us on Twitter at teleSUR English and Perez Moya. teleSUR, we will be right back.
Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali analyzes the international media influence driven by the empire, acts as an analysis of political, economic and social life throughout Latin America through our stream and website in English, a critical space committed to truth to determine the conjuncture that moved the world today. The World Today. Mondays on teleSUR. Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atomy. Monday, only on teleSUR.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back to From the South. The government of Argentina is advancing in its negotiation with Russia for the production of the Sputnik V vaccine in Argentina. The Argentine ambassador to Russia, Eduardo Swain, explained that his diplomatic mission seeks to secure the transfer of the necessary technology to manufacture the vaccine in the South American country. Meanwhile, the executive director of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, Kirill Dmitriev, assured that the entity is initiating agreement with the 2 Argentine companies for the production of the vaccine developed by the Russian lab Gamaleya. Argentina has so far received 3 shipments of Sputnik V, with a total of 820,000 doses, out of the 90 million that Russia is committed to deliver by the end of February. In Bolivia, the immunization of health personnel who face greater risks when caring for patients in the period of pandemic of the new coronavirus continue without interruption. Meanwhile, there are attempts to keep economic activities in operation. Our correspondent, Freddy Morales, brings us more details.
As soon as the first 20,000 doses of the vaccine against the new coronavirus arrived, the immunization of the health personnel most exposed to the virus began in this country. This week, the vaccination was extended to Tarija and Chuquisaca.
35,000 doses of the vaccine have already been administered in Argentina. The worst adverse reaction has been pain at the area of vaccination, slight fever or general discomfort that goes within 24 hours.
The fight against the pandemic has the support of the social organizations, which are preparing the release of union demands for this period, in which, for the first time, health has the priority over salary issues.
Health is the priority in the list of demands, and therefore we must decide how to join, support and help this work that is carried out by the government, leaving aside ideological, political differences. Health is what is important at this moment.
The government clarified that, in its strategy, immunization reaches, for the time being, only those who are at high risk of contagion due to their exposure to the disease.
We will vaccinate as we have indicated as priority the medical personnel, but the medical personnel working specifically with COVID and the intensive care units. It is important to know that with the second shipment of vaccine that arrived in the country, we will be able to vaccinate all the healthcare personnel. The world healthcare personnel entails around 179,600 people.
The first 20,000 doses of the Sputnik V vaccine have been administered since last Friday in the capital cities of the departments. This February, the first million doses of the COVAX vaccine will arrive, which guarantees vaccines for at least 20% of the population in less developed countries.
One group of people that we are going to vaccinate as a priority is the people with chronic disease. We have 1,300,000 people in this group, among them the people over 60 years of age. This is the vulnerable sector, and then we are going to vaccinate all the people who are known as the healthy population. Within the healthy population, we have 4 million Bolivians. This means that we are going to vaccinate around 7.2 million Bolivians in the country.
The Bolivian government has contracted purchases of more than 15 million vaccines of different brands that will arrive between now and June. In all cases, vaccination is voluntary and free, but health insurance companies, clinics, and pharmacies have also been authorized to import them.
Freddy Morales, teleSUR, Bolivia.
In the United States, police says 6 people were shot to death early Tuesday at a home in Oklahoma, including 5 young children, and a person who is suspect in the killings was taken into custody. In a press release, authorities say officers responded to a call of multiple people shot at the home in Muskogee, a city just under 40,000 people, about 22 kilometers southeast of Tulsa. Once there, officers encountered a person with a gun who was later taken into custody. Officers at the scene found a man and 4 children dead, and 5 children died in the Tulsa hospital. Authorities have not released the name of the person arrested or any details about the people who died.
Around 1:30 this morning, officers were dispatched to a call of a shooting on Indiana Street. When they arrived on scene, they encountered a suspect leaving the residence with a gun in his hand. One of our officers fired at that suspect, missing him. The suspect ran off. He was shortly apprehended after a short foot chase. When officers went inside the scene, they discovered 4 small children had been shot and 1 adult male. There was another female that was taken to the hospital with another small child. They were both life-flighted to a Tulsa hospital where that small child also was pronounced deceased.
That the 2 agents were killed and 3 were wounded while serving a federal search warrant in a case involving violent crimes against children in South Florida. The agencies say the suspect also is dead. Authorities say the shooting Tuesday involved a suspect barricade inside the home in an apartment complex in Sunrise, a suburb of Fort Lauderdale. And the United States Senate voted this Tuesday to confirm Alejandro Mayorkas as the Biden administration's Secretary of Homeland Security. Mayorkas is the first Latino and the first immigrant to hold the post. Born in Cuba, he faced opposition from the Senate Republican caucus, which has questioned Biden's immigration policy. Mayorkas is expected to carry out several reforms in one of the most criticized departments under Donald Trump's administration. Italy's president on Tuesday called in a former central banker, Mario Draghi, to help resolve the country's political crisis after talks aimed at forming a new government collapse. The president is set to meet Draghi, the former head of the European Central Bank, on Wednesday and expect to ask him to take over as prime minister. Italy's coalition government fell apart after a key partner withdrew last month, depriving former Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte of his parliamentary majority in parliament and forcing his resignation. President Mattarella has given until Tuesday for the coalition members to come together again and form a new government, but talks failed.
I therefore feel it is my duty to call on all political parties in Parliament to place their trust in a high-level government, which should be affiliated to any political color. I therefore intend to issue a mission as soon as possible to form a new government that can respond rapidly to serious emergencies.
Turkish police fired tear gas on Tuesday and chased protesters down narrow Istanbul street as a week of student protests against President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's appointment of a university rector turned violent. The country has been hit by weeks of rallies across major campuses against Erdogan's appointment of a party loyalty to head Istanbul's exclusive Bogazici University at the start of the year. Police detained over 150 students after storming a protest stage inside the fence of campus on Monday night. Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu tweeted on Thursday that 4 LGBT freaks has been detained for inciting hatred, which they posted, and they Twitter took the rare step of hiding the message under a warning that it violates the platform's rules about hateful conduct. Also in Turkey, one person died and another is missing after flash floods struck in the province of Izmir. The 2 people were trapped inside a vehicle that was carried away by rising water at the towns of Menderes. Izmir's governor, Yasub Selim Gosser, said the region received 1.5 times more rain than the average total for February in just 10 hours. Many residents and businesses in Baykrali and Barkalar were severely damaged by the floods, which also left vehicles stranded on highways. The downpour is forecast to continue until Wednesday morning. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on teleSUR. A review of the world news that investigates, incites analysis and induces criticism, because every event has a context.
Pusimos el punto en él.
Dot in the I. Saturday. Only on teleSUR.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. only on teleSUR.
Welcome back. Russia's Sputnik V vaccine, developed by the Gamaleya National Center of Epidemiology and Microbiology, report 91% efficacy during the third phase of clinical trials and 100% efficacy in several cases. According to preliminary analysis, the Russian vaccine showed more than 91% safety, specifically in adults aged over 60. Experts consider that the vaccine administered in 2 doses showed high efficacy and was tolerated by volunteers over 18 years of age who participated in the last stage of the clinical trials. The report also highlights that not significant adverse effects were detected and point out that only 45 of a total of 16,400 volunteers who received the jabs experienced adverse effects, but these were not related to the vaccination. At least 20 countries were initiating their vaccination campaigns against COVID-19 this week using the Russian vaccine Sputnik V. The Russian Direct Investment Fund announced in a statement that during the first week of February, a group of countries on several continents has already received and distributed the Russian vaccine, and in many of them vaccination campaigns has already begun. The document stresses that 10 of these countries, Sputnik V has become the first vaccine licensed for civilian use. The Russian fund also highlighted that the vaccine is one of the most widely available. In Latin America, countries such as Argentina, Mexico, Bolivia, and Venezuela have requested the vaccine, highlighting its effectiveness. There were public signs of opposition to the military takeover in Myanmar on Tuesday evening in Yangon, the country's biggest city, after several activist groups asked people to make noise at 8 p.m. local time. According to local report, what was initially planned to take place for just a few minutes extended to more than a quarter of an hour in several neighborhoods. Drivers also honked their horns, while people on the balconies banged pots and pans. At the same time, could be heard wishing detained leader Aung San Suu Kyi good health and calling for freedom. Myanmar's military chief, Min Aung Hlaing, chaired the first cabinet meeting following the military takeover on Monday. President Min Sue attended the meeting after surrendering all powers to the commander-in-chief on Monday. Residents of the Syrian city of Deir ez-Zor protest on Tuesday against the siege conduct the so-called Syrian Democratic Force backed by the United States in the towns of Hasakhet and Qamishli. Hundreds of Syrians rallied to demand the expulsion of the militia force backed by the U.S. occupation, which for the past 20 days has established a siege in the local province center of Hasakhet and the neighborhoods of Tates and Kalko in the city of Qamishli. The demonstrators denounced as a result of these acts, more than 100,000 civilians lack minimum living conditions, with shortage of food and fuel intensifying. On the occasion of World Wetlands Day, Senegalese environmental protection NGOs mobilized several dozens of volunteers as well as workers and officials to clean up parts of the mangrove swamp and surrounding coastlines in the Jal Fatiu Marine Protected Area, a diversity sanctuary known for its sea turtles. Due to the lack of adequate waste collection system, sea currents cause rubbish dumped by village to the north of Pileup in the area, hindering its biodiversity.
There are many families who live off the mangrove swamp or the sea. In order to conserve species, we deemed it necessary to eliminate all plastic, because plastics are harmful to the environment. With the current that comes from the north to the south, all the plastic waste from these villages will get caught up in the current and end up dumped on this island.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that his government will nominate Cuba's Henry Reef Medical Brigade for the Nobel Peace Prize. 217 Cuban doctors from various disciplines arrived to aid in the fight against the novel coronavirus when South Africa experienced a rise in COVID-19 infection in April last year. President Ramaphosa noted that in recognition of this effort, his cabinet has approved a proposal to nominate the Henry Reef International Contingent of doctors specialized in disaster situations and serious epidemics for the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize. The president hailed heroic, tireless, and brave efforts of the country's healthcare workers, scientists, and all frontline personnel, true to the story of solidarity shown by the government and people of Cuba. In Africa alone, the brigade has treated more than 38,000 people by the end of November 2020 and remains active in many countries around the world as the fight against COVID-19 continues. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Thank you for watching.
Dentro do que é o nosso governo hoje, periférico, pobre, favelado, preto, ele não existe. Não existe diálogo. Eles são fascistas, sim.
Sempre que há uma aplicação brutal e radical de um programa neoliberal, é necessária repressão, porque o neoliberalismo retira direitos sociais e o neoliberalismo precariza as condições de vida da classe trabalhadora.